My name is Akash Bansal and I represent Project Surat. Today on the Earth Day, let's talk about minimalism. It is not just about buying less, it is also about buying products that are local, buying products that are sustainably produced and consumed. Since we are not the only beings on this planet, so let's be more responsible with our consumption patterns so there is ample save for other beings as well. You can start today. You can start by consuming less electricity. You can start using more public transport so that we are less dependent on oil. So these are a few tips from my end, and let's make this planet a better place to live in.
If you really want to contribute towards the fight against climate change, then it's not about doing big things. It's actually about those small things that you do on a daily basis. Now, what happens is if we as a community, if there is a shift in our mindset towards sustainability and ecological practices, then companies which are catering to us, they will have to change their strategy as well. If we are more sustainable and we want products which are more sustainable and our habits are those which are very climate conscious, then companies will change their marketing strategy to promote more such products. They will change their product composition to make the products more sustainable so that when they are selling it, more people want to buy it. So this mindset shift which we can have as a community will actually lead to a change in the business world as well. And that is how those small things such as using a bucket instead of taking a shower, making sure that the washing machine is at full capacity, ensuring that you reuse and recycle everything, and making sure that you don't use plastic bags unnecessarily and use paper bags instead. These small changes will reflect in our mindset as a community, and companies will notice and will be forced to change their strategy, because at the end of the day, customer is king and they have to sell their products as well.
Hi, my name is Saurabh, and I feel that it's extremely important. It's not only our responsibility but also our prerogative to make sure that we as the citizens of the world, we start thinking more about our consumption patterns. Today, sitting in this pandemic, I think all of us have the time to reflect upon our consumption patterns and think about what are we doing wrong that the world is in such a climate crisis today. Small little steps can really make a difference, starting from like you might a lot of times hear that one person cannot really make a difference. You might hear that even if you are the single person who's probably shifting out of plastic bags, or you are the single person who's wasting a little less water, or who you are the single person who's not using animal products, I think even that can create a lot of difference. And I think it's extremely important that we as the community, we start taking small little steps. We start becoming more conscious about our consumption patterns, about the way we look at our environment, and that is what will make our next and the future generations, that is what will help them sustain better. Because let's say if we consume the entire world today, what will be left for them? So start taking conscious actions, start becoming more sustainable altogether, and I think that will help. Thank you so much.
Hi guys, it's Thursday, and well, there are a couple topics that I would like to talk about. One of them is how often should you consume meat per day? And it has a very intricate answer, but you should wait for it. Then there's landfills, and it's all sort of tied up when you look at the supply chain. But let's begin with the genesis of the food that we eat. So where does it come from, who makes it, and what's the production methodology? So when you look at cows, right, they're usually, the problem with cows or any sort of livestock rearing is that you really need to, unless it's grass-fed requires a lot of area, but unless it's grass-fed and you're feeding it with actual free animal feed, it's going to be a problem, because it requires a lot of water to raise the soybean that is processed into animal feed and then given it to them. It requires a lot of land also. An interesting parameter regarding this is the Amazon rainforest case. About 81% of the land in the Amazon was deforested because they had to provide area for cattle grazing, and they obviously had to raise the food for cows that were not grass fed. So soybean production was a thing of, it was in abundance in Brazil, and about I think 1100 activists tried to take a stand, and they were all shot. So it's literally a bloody business that we're talking about. And what's more is that obviously, I've already talked about methane production and their waste. It has created about 500 nitrogenous zones in the ocean. So what happens is nitrogen is one of the 16 essential, micro and macronutrients that plants need to survive. And when a lot of plants in the ocean, they take up the nitrogen and their abundance increases. During the day, photosynthesis helps them produce oxygen, but they consume all of it during the night, leaving nothing for the fish. So all the fish die. And that's essentially the basic foundation behind a dead zone. Moving on to fish, the way that normal wild fish is caught, it's caught using a net. So for every pound of, for example, if I'm a fisherman, I take my fish to sea. There's this area where a certain fish has been spawning, and there's a lot of, the same kind that I want to fish for my consumers. I take my net there, and I take my boat there, I take my equipment there, and I throw it in the water. But the ocean does not have specific areas for specific species, it's an ecosystem. So for every 1 pound of targeted fish that I would catch, I would also catch about 3 to 4 pounds of non-targeted fish, which I didn't even intend to fish. And it's called bykill, and bykill is a big problem. Around 60 to 70% of it is wasted. In a world that is gonna end up at 9 billion people by 2050, we will need 60% more food to feed our populations. But if we keep this, track of greenhouse gases, of food wastage, of over exploiting these resources which are not at all renewable, we'll be in big trouble. Now let's sort of talk about the end of this supply chain. I mean, it's usually, it's not really tied to the food production issue, but let's talk about landfills. So a lot of waste that we generate at our households, it usually ends up in landfills, right? Now, most modern landfills have a liner at the bottom that prevents the nutrient-rich water, which we call leachate in environmental engineering. Leachate, it's blocked from going in the groundwater and contaminating it. And these liners are covered by a geomembrane, maybe gravel or something like that, and then there's PVC or something that prevents the leachate from going inside the ground and contaminating our groundwater resources. But that's something that a lot of third world countries don't do, and I'm not sure about most landfills in India, but I've been to a couple here and there and they didn't have this facility. I'm not going to name them obviously. And when the land is filled, right, there are layers, and the layers that are deeper towards the ground, they don't get enough oxygen, so there's a lot of methane production. Now ideally what developed countries do with this methane is they use it for biogas, and biogas in turn generates electricity. But I don't know about our local communities here in Surat, but that is the reason our landfill caught fire, because there was a lot of methane coming up, and methane is flammable, right? It's a greenhouse gas. It's flammable, so it caught fire because we weren't really essentially extracting the methane and using it for biogas production. Same goes with leachate. Leachate because it has a lot of heavy metals, it has a lot of nutrients that will contaminate your groundwater, and then you're going to have to go through an energy intensive process of cleaning it. So you might as well clean the leachate and then discard it, just like sewage. These are some issues that we really need to educate ourselves about, and when we do it, it's going to be a good day for our communities. Happy Earth Day 2020, and hope you have a